Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's MCKOOKIE. So in this video I wanted to talk about basically my opinions on the new killer that came out, the Trickster, because I've been playing him quite a bit since his release, and unfortunately I kind of share the same general opinion as I'd say most people do that have played him, and that I feel like in his current state he's unfortunately the weakest killer in the game and also the hardest to play because of that. So overall, like I'm very disappointed that he was on PTB for 3 weeks and they did absolutely nothing to change him. They did some small quality of life things here and there, but what they did in the process was they nerfed his best add-on, which was his ricochet blades, doing double laceration. So basically, if you landed a bounce knife, it would injure somebody and down them in 4 hits instead of 4 hits instead of 8, because it's 8 by default. So they got rid of his strongest add-on, but they didn't really give him anything else to compensate for that. And I played him the day he came out a lot, and I think I lost every game. Like, no joke. I played for him for like an hour and a half, and I want to say I lost almost every single game. I went from like rank 1 to like, I don't know, like halfway through rank 3. It was really bad, and I don't know, like, I've been playing him more and I'm definitely better at him since I first started playing, especially since I have a build that I kind of like running on him. In the background, it's actually probably the best game I've had with him, to be honest, but you really have to like kind of play a lot sweatier and a little scummier, I feel like, to make up for how weak he is. And I wanted to talk about some things they could do to change him. And the good news is, if they tweak anything, he'll be a lot better, because in my opinion, in all areas, he could use some sort of improvement. The main thing I would say is they need to really lower the spread in the recoil of his throwing knives, especially on console. It feels really hard. Like, I'm playing on like a launch day PS4. I don't have stretch res. I don't have a crosshair, so it's probably a lot harder for me than, you know, the typical PC streamer. But overall, it's like, it's funny because in Overwatch you have the shooter character Soldier 76. When he first came out, his weapon had spread, so you kind of had to shoot his gun in a burst, or his bullets would go all over the place if you're not shooting a tank. And then they reworked Soldier 76 to go from his gun having spread, which is how much your bullets kind of spread out from center the more you hold down the trigger, to recoil. Now Soldier 76 has recoil. Trickster has both spread and recoil on his throwing knives, which means the more you hold it down, the further away from the center of your screen your knives are actually going, which is the spread, and the harder they're flying straight up into the sky. So I noticed with Trickster, the best way to play him is to kind of fire your knives in bursts of 3 or 4, kind of like it's an M16 kind of thing, where it's kind of like you just want to burst fire it, kind of like how Old Soldier used to play, where you would only shoot your gun in bursts, you wouldn't like hold down the trigger, and you always want to kind of look down towards the survivor, like just kind of shoot him in the ass. Because the way the recoil works, it flies straight up, so if you aim lower, you have a better chance of landing all your knives. Now, his biggest weakness right now, I feel like, is that his knives take so long to down people that the laceration meter on most tiles will usually kick in and make it so that you don't really make any progress. So my best advice for anybody that's trying to play him right now is honestly take the basic attack hits, take the M1 hits, whenever you can. Like, if a survivor's running right up to you, you don't get the advantage of like Huntress, where you can do melee hatchets, where you hatchet them point blank and then you can follow them up for like a regular basic attack. Just take any basic attack you can. Like, if a survivor runs right into you, just smack them. That's why, ironically, save the best for last. Even though he's a ranged killer, save the best for last is really nice on him, because you're going to get a lot more basic attacks in than you are throwing knives. Unfortunately, at least for me, I feel like my ratio of downs with like basic attacks versus throwing knives is maybe like 3 to 10. Like, I'll get 3 downs with freaking throwing knives, but most of my downs are like basic attacks, where I'll pretend to use my power and then I'll kind of like fake my red light, my red glow, and go for a basic attack. So Say the Best for Last is really good on him. Gen defense perks, pop, ruin, corrupt is really good on him. He has really nice synergy with monitor and abuse, because he's same as Deathslinger, where they both have the same 24-meter terror radius. So with monitor and abuse, you're already on top of a survivor by the time they get the warning of your music. But unlike Deathslinger, you can't like injure them immediately. Like, Deathslinger can just shoot somebody by getting the jump on them. With him, you're just kind of getting the jump on them, and then you have to like throw a billion knives. His power, I want to say, is really good on loops that you can throw over, similar to Huntress, especially if they put the pallet down and you angle yourself in a way where they're going to keep trying to vault back and forth over it. You can literally just down somebody really quick there. It's also the only safe time that I would advise using main event, because main event at the moment literally like screws you over. Like you move super slow and you're kind of locked in the throwing animation. So what I do is I only use main event on basically pallet loops that I can throw over. The loops on Macmillan are really good. That's probably his best map. There's some nice loops here on Lery's because they keep vaulting windows. He's really good at getting like 2 to 3 knives in if your aim is decent as they vault a window. But overall, like, playing him is super hard. Like, he's insanely hard to play. Like, I never play Nurse because Nurse is kind of rough on console, and I still feel like I can have an easier game playing Nurse with my limited skill on Nurse than I can playing this guy. Like, every game is hard. Every game you have to prepare to sweat if you're at red ranks, at rank 1 especially. It's rough, man. I've had a few better games now, but it's not because so much of his power, but just because I know the basics of playing Killer. I definitely think Save the Best helps a lot. My favorite build would probably be like Pop, Ruin, Corrupt, and either Save the Best for last for the 4th perk or Monitor and Abuse. That's your choice. I think that's probably his best build. But overall, he feels like you're playing Huntress with ankle weights. Like, I played him for an hour, and then I went back to Huntress, and I'm by no means an amazing Huntress. I recently got into her a couple months ago. But, dude, I feel like playing Trickster for like an hour has made me so much better at Huntress. Like, I am just destroying now with Huntress because I'm so used to, like, trying to compensate with how bad the throwing knives are and using them whenever I can, to just be able to instantly injure and instantly hit people with Huntress is so nice coming off a Trickster. Trickster is literally Huntress with ankle weight. So if you want to get better at Huntress, just play Trickster. Like, the amount of compensation you have to do for Trickster being so much weaker than Huntress. Like, when I used to play Huntress, I'm like, damn, Huntress feels really hard. And now, going from Trickster to Huntress, I've actually gone a lot. I'm actually kind of nasty on Huntress now. And it's funny how, you know, if you play them both back to back, you can just see how weak Trickster is in comparison, even to Plague, because honestly he kind of plays more similar to Plague, because the way his knives are right now with the spread and the recoil and how tiny the knife hitboxes are, your power is more like short to medium range, like the Plague's Vomit, and since it's like a constant stream of projectiles, it is kind of more similar to Plague than Huntress in my opinion. But honestly, my best advice for anybody trying to play him, again, take the basic attack hits whenever they can. Like, if they give you an opportunity, if a survivor runs into you, don't be goofy trying to go for knives. Just hit them with the basic, you know. Avoid Killer Shack if you can, or at least limit your time there. Some survivors are terrible and they don't know how to run Killer Shack, even against this guy, but he is hard countered by Killer Shack. It's very hard to get knives in or even regular attacks in because you're 110%. And honestly, this guy is best when you're just getting pressure off a basement. If you can get a basement hook and kind of play like a scumbag and proxy camp basement, that's kind of all he has going for him. You know, not too far off a Trapper, but I think Trapper's a lot stronger because the traps are actually decent when they're used correctly, and friggin' he's 115%. This guy a lot of times, if you're playing against good survivors, feels like he's 110% with a power that he can't use. So it's kind of like he's a basic attack killer that happens to throw knives. It's really rough right now, and I do hope they change him soon. The one thing I will say is if you do have a good game with him, it feels really rewarding, although honestly it's probably going to be against kind of potato survivors where you can do good with any killer, but he's super bullyable right now. Like, he feels like the way Huntress would be if survivor mains had their way and nerfing her or something like that. Honestly, it's just rough. There's so many areas they could improve. They could lower the spread and recoil. Either get rid of the spread completely or just tone down the recoil. The recoil kicks really hard, especially on controller. Like, I am having to slam that right stick down like crazy when I play him. Like, I'm already like looking at the floor when I start throwing knives. His movement speed, he goes down to like 60%, which is insanely slow the more knives you throw. So he has the ability to like full auto his knives, but he gets punished so hard for doing that it's not worth it. Like, that's why I say, like, you want to shoot knives in like bursts of 3 to 4 so that you don't get hit with the movement speed penalty. Because if you like throw up to 7 or 8, you're moving at 60%. Like, I thought Huntress was slow when she held down a hatchet too long. Huntress taps off at least, I think at like 80% is her maximum slow speed. when she's holding a hatchet. This guy goes down to 60%. It's insane. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, he's so weak in so many areas. It just feels like they were afraid to make another Freddy or something. Not that Freddy's OP or anything, but, you know, a killer that's actually good survivors will cry about. Yeah, I don't know. It's wild. Like, definitely, I don't. Okay, so what I don't want them to do, as far as changes to him go, I don't want them to just give him 115% and call it a day. I feel like that's not solving the main root cause of his power. He's 110% because he has throwing knives. He's range, right? Like Slinger and Huntress. So let's make the throwing knife aspect of him better. That's what I want. I don't want him to be 115% because now you're going to be even more inclined to want to use your baseball bat instead of your throwing knives. It just defeats the purpose. I want them to just get rid of how hard he gets nerfed in movement. Like, just get rid of the movement speed penalty, or get rid of the spread, or get rid of the recoil, or just tone down a little bit of everything. See, right here in this pallet loop in the background, this is where he's at his strongest, where they just keep trying to vault back and forth. You can get knives in. I don't want him to be 115. I want it to be more practical for you to be able to use the knives. That's what I want. Because the animation and shit is really cool. Like, when you down somebody with a knife and the way they grab their back like they're in pain, it's actually really well done. Like, cosmetically, I think he's awesome. Like, I know a lot of people were complaining that he doesn't fit the aesthetic of the game. I think he fits in way better than like Demogorgon does, who's a freaking alien. At least he's a human being, like all of the other casts. His backstory is kind of like Clown, where it's like a dude who went psycho. So it's honestly, I think he's fine. His skins are awesome. I'm rocking the freaking the turquoise pants, the Tiffany blue pants with the white fur coat. I really like his skins. I think he's cool. His weapon looks awesome. I got it Prestige 1 already. That's why it's got like blood vines in there and stuff. Cosmetically, he looks great, and the throwing knives, they look and sound really cool to use, and when you finally get survivors in an area where you can actually use them, it's actually really fun. It's just, I want it to be more usable. Like, the movement speed sucks, the spread feels really bad, the recoil is really bad. In my opinion, main event needs to be like Oni's Demon Dash, or Demon, like, Blood Fury power, where you earn it from throwing knives like you do now, but you press a button to activate it whenever you want. So it's kind of like, you know, Tier 3 Myers, or, you know, Spirit Phase. Like, I have main event, and when I catch a survivor in the open, then I want to activate my power. The fact that you have literally no control over when your power goes off, it's kind of like a, hey, you have it, and you better use it now, or you're not going to be able to. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And who knows, maybe if they buffed main event, that could be all he needs. He could be a killer that's kind of average, you know, with his throwing knives, but then his real burst of strength comes when he activates main event. That could be a thing, kind of like how Oni's like a regular killer, but then he becomes like Billy for bots when he has his demon power, or whatever, his Blood Fury power. They could do it like that. They need to let you tap into the power whenever you want, because right now it's kind of like, oh, you have it, and then on top of that, they really need to fix how it works. Like, you move so slow when you use it, and then you're like, you get like a Legion stun when you finish, where he looks at his hands, just like Legion, when you get canceled out of your power. It's just, I don't know. He's very hard to play. It definitely feels like Huntress and Plague with extra steps. They could change the laceration meter to like not decay. To not decay so fast, or at least when they're in chase with you, it doesn't decay until they're out of chase. Survivors maybe need a way to pull the knives out of them manually, so kind of like instead of mending, it could be like similar to deep wounds, but they're pulling knives out of them. So that way, at least when you put like 6 or 7 knives into somebody and they dead hard, and, you know, get a shit ton of distance on you, or they use Lithe or something, at least you have a little bit of slowdown there where the person has to spend time pulling knives out of them instead of just getting, you know, right back on a gen because the laceration meter is too fast. There's a lot of things they could do. Spread, recoil, make it so laceration decay works differently. The movement speed, the spread, and the recoil are the 3 big things, I would say, for him. I don't want them to just make him 115% and call him a day. That way he just becomes weak forever, kind of like how Legion is now, where they made him 115, but his power is kind of shit. I want them to actually, like, help this guy out. But anyway, guys, that's my opinion on the Trickster so far. This was a sweaty little 4K I got on Lery's somehow. If you guys do enjoy the video, give it a like and sub for more. And if you're playing Trickster, let me know how you like him. He's really weak right now. By far the worst killer in the game. I'll catch you all later. MCKOOKIE out.